Yo, yo, yo,
Yo, yo,
yo!
yo!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first episode of Mets on Top. Now,
Yes.
it's a little raw, right? We kind of getting into the, hang of things, setting everything up, but this was kind of on the fly.
Yeah.
Randy actually hit me up a couple days ago and was like, Top, why don't we start something fresh or just you and me, keep it just as its own thing. And we were kind of dabbling with some names. We automatically thought that Mets on Top would be the best option just because under the Top Bunk Sports umbrella, where I got major things coming up on that, but that's for a separate video. um we got a lot of things that we've done a lot of things under the Mets on Top brand for Top Bunk Sports, right? And he said instead of having to come up with a new name, why don't we just stick to that one where we could just kind of keep going and jumping on it and just instead of having it under one brand, keep make it its own brand, and we can
Mm-hmm.
expand and there's a lot
Yeah.
of Met content creators out there. You got the Wardies, you got the Mets Weeklies, you got the Mets, so Mets Do His Part, you got the Subway to Shays, hell, you got Blunt Thoughts,
A lot, man.
you got
A lot.
Shay and Sons. You got a lot of Met content creators that give their own opinions about the Mets. So, we said, why not, join the movement? And since me and Randy have good chemistry, why not go ahead and give our opinions on everything? And like I said, this isn't normally the usual thing. I know we're lot coming. I'm coming live from my account. Randy's coming live from his account. Um, before Randy goes, just want to share screen some of the accounts that we'll have. So if you see here is the X account. Well, this is the YouTube account, excuse me. Right here, nothing crazy, but it's Mets on Top. This is a YouTube account. So make sure you guys go subscribe to that as we're gonna start posting our videos and our lives on there whenever we are on. And then obviously when it comes to X, right, which is like I said, X and YouTube are the only two right now that are being shown. As you see it right here, Mets on Top on X. Already got the bio and everything like that. Um, everything is in flow, ready to go. You guys see the logo right here, Mets on Top. Added the 7 train, kind of little using a little bit of an AI, but you see the logo right here, the New York Mets logo with everything going on. Try to make it a little bit creative, but a little bit simple at the same time. But Randy, tell me how you feeling. Tell me how you feel about the new off brand and what's in store for us come as we begin to get ready for the finish of the off season and going into spring training and stuff like that.
No, listen. Look, I'm very, very excited about the new podcast, Mets on Top. We're gonna be doing, a lot more shows together under that umbrella, under that account. Definitely. I'm very, very excited. I think it's a good idea. Rather than, we look at each other's channels, you can see somebody look up Mets on Top and they're gonna find that podcast there. So it's a good thing. I think it's cool. But there's been a lot of Mets news, man. There's been a lot of baseball news in the recent days, and I think it's gonna be very exciting to see what happens next with the New York Mets. I mean, you traded for Luis Robert. You were interested in Cody Bellinger. I don't know if there was an offer made to Cody Bellinger or anything like that, but I think when it comes to the Mets, they have made moves, and it's not like they've been absent this offseason. And this was a very concerning offseason, I'm sure, when we got hit with that triple whammy, when we lost, we traded Brandon Nimmo, you lost Pete Alonso, and then you lost Edwin Diaz. So that was like the worst week possible for Met fans. It was absolutely horrible. But this week has been pretty good. You got Luis Robert. Carlos Beltran is inducted to the Hall of Fame. Credit to him. I think when it comes to the New York Mets, there's more to come. David Stearns has said that they want to get a pitcher. Today he said that. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited. Check the box.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I just checked it, but yes, absolutely. But I mean, since we've been live, it's been a couple of it's been about a couple of weeks or so. Um, I mean, let's get straight into it. The brand new signing of Bo Bichette. I mean, the whole conversation was Kyle Tucker this, Kyle Tucker that. Nobody knew where he was going. It was down to three teams within the New York Mets, the Toronto Blue Jays, the LA Dodgers. I mean, everybody kind of had it between a toss-up with the Mets and the Blue Jays. Everybody was kind of saying, look into the Dodgers. Maybe they might sweep in and do something. Maybe they might not. They might not want to risk losing, their number two draft pick. I think it was a number two draft pick at in that moment. So nobody really was truly, truly worried about the Los Angeles Dodgers. However,
Yeah.
here they come, the big bad Dodgers with their money, and they swoop right in and automatically take Kyle Tucker. Now, mind you, it was already reported that the Mets were willing to go 3 years. It was what, the 50 mil per year, right? It
Four
was a three
years,
year
220 mil. 4 years, 220 mil that the Mets
so
made the offer. 55 mil was the
and
AAV.
right. That was the final offer. But when
That
it
was the
first came
final
out,
offer.
the
That was the
first
final.
offer that came out, he said what, it was 50 per year, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right. So now that we know that they were willing to go 4 years, you said 220, right?
Yeah. 4 years, 220.
220.
55
The
mil.
the the, the Toronto Blue Jays, on the other hand, went 10 years, 310, I think it was, right? 310, 320?
350 for 10 years.
350, excuse me.
Yep.
Woo! And then
No,
the
you good,
Dodgers
bro.
said, you know what?
That's why I'm here,
The
bro.
Do- the Dodgers said, nah, we'll give him 60 mil. We'll give him 60 mil per year. And Kyle Tucker said, you know what? I won a championship before. I want to win another one again. I'm gonna go to LA. I don't know, man. It kind of pissed me off in a way because it almost felt like the Mets were being used. But
Yeah.
the next day, the Mets end up snagging Bo Bichette on a 3 year, $126 million contract. And the funny thing about that is that no matter what happens, the New York Mets tend to own the Philadelphia Phillies. And shout out to Bob Nightingale. Whether you love him or you hate him, he dropped that bomb in Philadelphia, where it was reported by Bob himself that the Phillies were willing to give exactly what Bo Bichette was asking for. And the New York Mets said, you know what, buddy, you could come here. Randy, you let me know what you think about the Bo Bichette signing. And yeah, once you let us know, we'll go into some
Yeah.
of the
No,
thread
listen.
and some of the
I
questions.
I absolutely love the Bo Bichette signing. I think you're getting a guy that, first of all, is a young player, is a guy that, man, does not strike out a lot. He's a talent. Yes, he's had some injuries. Yes, he's, in the past. But I think when it comes to Bo Bichette, you're getting a player that, man, he's elite when it comes to the bat. He gives you a lot. He could give you power. He could give you that big at bat, that clutch at bat that you need. And that's the thing with these guys. Like, you bring in a Bo Bichette, you brought in a Jorge Polanco, you brought in, these guys. I think the team last year, you saw 2025. What did they lack? They struck out a lot, and also runners in scoring position. They were not performing very, very well. You bring in a Bo Bichette, a Polanco, these type of players. Those guys here were runners in scoring position. Okay. And that is what you want to see when it comes to a New York Met team. You want to see that. And that leads to clutch hits. That leads to more runs. That is what I love about Bo Bichette. Now, defensively, he is not the greatest defender in the world. He is not at all the greatest defender in the world. He was a shortstop. I think he played second base, in 2025 because at shortstop he's not really great, but they're gonna put him at third base. Now that is gonna be the very interesting part about this. What's gonna happen with that situation? Third base. David Stern said it today. He feels Bo Bichette can adapt to third base just fine. So if he feels that way, listen, it is what it is. I'm putting the confidence in what he's saying. Okay, so I like Bo Bichette. I like him a lot. I think yeah, it's a was it a 4-year deal? What is it? A 3-year, 4-year deal?
For Boba Fett,
Yeah.
it's a 3-year deal,
3-year deal. It's a
126,
3-year deal with the opt out after the first
one and
year
two.
and the second year. So
Yeah,
to be honest, I think when it comes to that, like you're getting Boba Fett, yeah, he might want to opt out, but you're paying him 2 mil this year because the contract came out today, and everything else is pretty much like they're only paying 2 mil this year, so it's pretty
right,
cool. Yeah,
right,
but I
right.
like it a lot.
Yeah, no, me too, me too. I like the pivot move. Again, people say that it's an overpay. It's $42 million a year. At the end of the day, you're getting an elite right-handed bat, a solid defender. I know his numbers kind of his DRS numbers kind of dropped a little bit, but you can kind of fix that with in a pitcher's park. And I think it'll be amazing for Boba Fett, a brand new team, brand new scenario. It'll work. Another guy that we're hoping that works out in a brand new scenario on a new thread. Mr. Luis Robert Jr. was traded yesterday night for Luis Angel Acuna. And again, as we break down this trade, I just want to show this picture that SNY Mets posted and look at that lineup right there. Lindor leading off, Soto right behind them, Bo Bichette at third, Jorge Polanco batting fourth, Brett Beatty as your DH, Francisco Alvarez as your catcher, Luis Robert Jr. batting seventh, Marcus Simeon batting eighth, and Carson Bench batting batting ninth. Yeah. So again, I like this lineup a lot. I really do. Do I think that with an elite bat like maybe Cody Bellinger at the time before he signed with the Yankees would have
Yeah.
worked. Probably would have made your lineup even more stacked. But I like the way that they pivot from this. Again, I think Luis Robert Jr. needed a situation where he was dying on a fucking hill with the
With
excuse
the
my language.
Chicago,
He
yeah.
was dying
Yeah.
on a hill with the Chicago White Sox. Now he's motivated to play somewhere where he knows he can possibly win, right?
Yeah.
And no, and obviously you take one game at a time. You don't know what the New York Mets are how they're going to be in 2026 after not making the playoffs last year. But you're willing to take the risk because you got a better defender. You got somebody that can steal bases. He's really quick and he has power in his bat. Again, I don't like Luis Robert Jr. I think the injury prone situation scares me a lot. But if
Hmm.
he's healthy, they can fix him, get him out there more consistently. I think it'll be a good option. So, Randy, what was your opinion on
Man,
the trade?
I tell you, my guy. Look, I actually love this. I think this is a low risk, high reward. I think when it comes to Luis Robert, what you're getting is yes, he's had some injuries. Yes, he's had some issues. Um, I think he's a change of scenery guy. I think he's going to be a change of scenery guy. I think that's really going to be a big thing for him. You're going from Chicago, the White Sox, who is a losing organization. They have been losing for so many years, and I don't think Luis Robert Jr. was motivated to play
Right,
with the White Sox. I really don't think the motivation was there. And before the trade deadline, he was getting hot. He was killing it. And then we heard that, oh, they're probably not going to trade him. And then you saw he got injured and the numbers went down. But I like Luis Robert. I like his arm. I like his speed. I mean, he's a plus defender out there. This is what you're getting with Luis Robert. Look, I want him to hit. At the end of the day, you want Luis Robert to hit. You got him here to hit the baseball. You got him here to field. This is not the case of Jose Siri. He's not a Jose Siri. He's not a Cedric Mullins. I think Luis Robert is going to be an absolute actually steal when it comes to this trade because Luis Angel Acuna is a guy that I liked, but I felt he didn't have a role with this team. You got Bo Bichette here. Beatty needed some type of role, right? Because it's either you trade Beatty or you give him a role. And they talked about Beatty, and the fact has his defensive versatility. He could play second base. He could play third base. They talks about him playing first base, playing left field. I mean, this is going to be the total utility guy player. Yes, Beatty doesn't have the speed that Acuna has, and you're getting 5 years of control for with Acuna. For the White Sox are getting that. The GM talked about that today. He said
Right,
that
right.
we're getting 5 years of control. So I think when it comes down to the situation, the Mets needed an outfielder. The Mets really, really needed an outfielder. Yes, we would have took Cody Bellinger, and that would have been awesome. But at the end of the day, we've been talking about this all off season, and the feel of the off season has been that he's going to go back to the Yankees. He's going to go back to the Yankees. Oh, they're offering him different contracts. They're the only really team that's really interested. The Blue Jays were never really interested in Cody Bellinger, and the Mets had interest, but the Yankees, he was going to go back to the Yankees regardless. His dad has connections there. Like, it just makes sense for Cody Bellinger. And he had a really good year. That ballpark plays perfectly for Cody Bellinger, so it makes perfect sense. Now, for the New York Mets, look, Cody Bellinger, bye-bye. It is what it is. Like, you got to move on. You got to move on to Luis Robert. And I like Luis Robert. I think what he can give you defensively is a plus, and he
Right.
can steal bases. His speed is top notch, man. He's like top in speed. So I like him. I like him. But what I want to ask you, Top,
Mhm.
is what do you think about Carson Bench? How do you feel that Carson Bench plays into this role now that they got Luis Robert and now that Cody Bellinger is off the table? How do you feel about Carson Bench? Because they're slotting him in the lineup already, but he didn't really perform that well at AAA. But at the end of the day, you traded Brandon Nimmo to give this guy an opportunity, right?
Right,
How do you
right.
feel about overall Carson Bench and getting this opportunity?
I mean, I think you needed to give him this opportunity. I think this kid's bat, and his defense has warranted him an opportunity. I think the spring training coming up in the beginning of towards the end of February, when we get into it, I think it's gonna be very telling to see what he does in spring training and how much potential this kid has, where he can get called up right away for the opening day roster and really fill that void on the outfield. Again, they really don't have a true left fielder. You can have him based on what he does in the offseason. You can have a conversation and be like, listen, we want you young. We know what you do on both ends of the baseball field. We want you to be our everyday left fielder. Obviously, as of right now, he's going to be trying to be splitting time with Brett Beatty unless they move Brett Beatty in a trade, which I don't see happening. But at the same time, like I said, he doesn't necessarily need to play every day. If they do it right by him and they don't treat him like a Luis Angel Acuna, or they don't treat him like a Ronnie Mauricio like they did last year, this kid can definitely get some ample playing time, and it could definitely work. Um, but we'll definitely see with some lineup changes. You never know. Bochette may not be playing third base all the time. You might move him to second, where Jorge Polanco might be, he might not be first base. You know what I'm saying? Like you were talking about,
Yeah.
Luis Robert Jr. may be playing first base, and you have Jorge Polanco being a DH. Like there's so many ways that
And,
Carlos Mendoza can pivot.
and also, you got a plus defender. You got a really good defender as well in Tyrone Taylor, and he's a bench
Absolutely.
piece. So you getting Luis
Absolutely. Yep.
Robert, and you getting you still got Tyrone Taylor here. So
Mhm.
I yes, Tyrone Taylor is not a great bat, but defensively, what he can give you, if you want to slot him in the late innings, I mean, this is a guy that can play really good defense for you, and he knows City Field now. He knows City
Right.
Field like
Right.
no other. So you
Absolutely.
saw amazing plays in 2025 from Mr.
Yeah.
Tyrone Taylor. So,
Absolutely.
like as we like to call him in Queens baseball, TT.
Yeah.
I mean, when it's a good day for TT at times. When he's playing really good defense. So, I like where this team is going, and I like you see the lineup though. I'm not the biggest fan of the lineup. I don't like the way that lineup is constructed because I
Mhm.
wouldn't put Luis Robert there in that lineup there. See, I think if Luis Robert, and this is what I kind of wish, right? This is what I kind of wish. I
Mhm.
wish that we
Mhm.
could put him in the leadoff spot. I wish that we could
Mm.
put him in the leadoff spot, or maybe put him at 9, for he could be like a leadoff hitter, but not be the leadoff hitter. Rather than
So
have Carson Bench be
Okay.
that nine hitter, I would like
Hmm.
Luis Robert to be either the nine hitter or the leadoff hitter, because I felt that this team lacks a real leadoff hitter. Yes, I love Lindor. I honestly love Lindor, but I feel like Lindor can have more opportunities to drive in more runs and better the team. And that's how I feel about that. So if you put a Luis Robert in the ninth spot and maybe a Carson Bench in like the eighth spot if you want, or something
Hmm.
like that, then you get that lefty righty. You're getting speed when it comes to Luis Robert from the nine spot. And then you got Lindor being your leadoff hitter, Soto, you got Polanco, and you got Bo Bichette. That's right there. That's something that you want. That is something that's I like that. I like that idea. I don't know what you think about that, but how do you feel?
But you're talking about a Luis Robert that, in terms of a leadoff hitter, can provide you because of his speed.
Yes, well, he could
You're
provide
you're
you for the
looking at it
speed.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
I know that the,
necessarily
the K
disagree
percentage
with it.
the K percentage isn't great, so I completely understand that. But why not put Luis Robert in the ninth spot? Why are we putting him in the
Right.
seventh spot? What is that really going to do for us, though?
Right.
I
Right.
think we got to think about this and add more elements to this lineup by making that change. If
Right.
you put Luis Robert
Absolutely.
as your
I
nine
agree.
hitter, he's
I
getting on
absolutely
base for
agree.
your top hitters.
Hmm. Right.
You know
I
what I'm
mean,
saying?
that's but then again, like, to your point, that's what makes this lineup so intriguing, is that you can add him in those big spots, and if he's able to produce, his chase rate, his strikeout rate kind of simmers down a little bit. Imagine what he does for everybody else in the lineup. It's
Exactly.
100% fact. I
And
honestly, like I said, I don't disagree with it. I just don't think Carlos Mendoza is gonna look at it that way. I think he's gonna look at it from a standpoint of, I need my best two hitters in Lindor and Soto as my one and two combo to start this off.
oh no, I understand that, and I'm fine. That's what I'm saying. Look, the only way that I could see Luis Robert being the leadoff hitter is if he becomes what he was doing in 2023. Now that's
Right,
probably not going to happen, but why not just have him in the ninth spot rather than have Benj in the ninth spot be that nine hitter for he can get on base for a
right,
Lindor, for a Soto, for a Polanco, for a
right,
Bobachette. That's what I want.
right,
That's what I feel.
right,
Because when you put Luis Robert in this seventh spot and Carson Bench in the ninth spot, it doesn't work for me. I don't like.
right,
I just don't get the appeal when it comes to that.
right,
Like, yes, Carson Bench is a guy that hits the ball very, very hard and can get on base a lot, and maybe he could be the nine hitter and he could be fine. But I'd rather have that speed element that Luis Robert brings you in that ninth
right.
spot. I honestly do.
Okay. All right, listen. I don't disagree with you one bit. Like I said, I think I would do it just a little bit different, but he does. I think he would be what, the fastest guy on the team per se. So it would. I can see that happening. What I do want to show everybody is Boba Fett taking in his new thread. I didn't think everybody kind of looked cool today. So let's see. Let's look at the little bit of the timeline real quick. Let me just share this right here, and we look at the timeline real quick of when he arrived to the press conference. You see him right here,
Yep.
sitting down, all black, all business, fresh haircut. Then you see him right here putting on the jersey.
Yep.
David Stearns on the left side, on his right side. Fresh thread, looking clean,
Yo,
looking
shout out to
clean.
Eddie. Shout out to Eddie, bro. I
My
appreciate
guy
you,
Eddie,
Eddie,
man.
man. You always doing great work, man. Great work with the Knicks, with the Mets. You're always live. You're
It's
doing
my
your
guy.
thing. Really appreciate the support.
Appreciate
What's
you,
going
Eddie.
on, man?
Appreciate you, Eddie. Appreciate you. I'm actually gonna be live with Eddie after the Knicks game, and the start of the fourth quarter, to talk
Awesome.
all things Knicks, and he's probably gonna have a
Awesome. Awesome.
conversation with me about the Mets. So make sure you guys tune in to Eddie Presti on YouTube and X, so you can catch that live. And
Yep.
yeah, man, we got more conversations going. I love doing these lives with Eddie, man. Great guy to talk to. You see Bochet with his family. So there you go. Congratulations to him and his wife. They recently just got married. So that's another thing. So he's on a high horse right now.
Mm.
That's his brother. That's his father. Excuse me. His father. Damn, his father
Dante,
looks old.
Dante
Damn,
Bichette,
his father looks old, man.
Dante
Jesus.
Bichette, man.
You see there Mendoza and Bochet. There you go. More family pictures, and here's Steve Gelbs talking to him. Go
You
back to
mentioned
this.
how this is one of, if not the greatest city in the world, certainly a passionate fan base. Just how big of a draw was that for you?
Yeah, huge draw. I mean, this is one of my favorite stadiums. Being a visiting player, coming here and the
He does
atmosphere,
have, yeah, he just look at this. He got this
unbelievable
soft
fans that
voice.
hold you to a high standard,
Right.
and I'm excited to meet that standard and try and help this team win World Series.
You mentioned
There we go. All right. Well, I mean, again, I would say company answers, but nothing out of the norm.
Well, Toronto's a great city, but what New York thing are you most excited to do off the field?
I don't know. During the season, it's pretty much about baseball, but
Got a little time.
yeah, I will say when I landed, I looked around and saw the city, and it hit a little bit different than it does when you come as a road player. I think as a road player, you kind of come and you try to ignore all of it. And when I landed, I kind of looked around, soaked it in, and realized like this is something. This is massive. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, Toronto's a great.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question though, Randy. You think he's truly happy, or you think he's like,
No,
I can't.
I think. First of all, I think it was about money. I think it was about money, and
Well, what? Of course.
I don't think that he came here because it's the best city in the world or whatever.
Yeah, it was 100% the money.
Look, he
Right.
could say that. He could say that, and it sounds good. That's good. It's
Speaking up,
not like
son.
he's crapping on the city. But I think when it comes to the money, you saw the money got paid. I mean, come on. I mean, this is why he
42,
came.
40,
He came
42
here.
mil, man.
He came here for the money. He came here for also kind of security in his ability, because now he can have a really good year and he can opt out either the first year or the second year. Like,
Hmm.
he could do whatever he wants. He has the power. So that is why he came here. The Phillies offered him a 7-year deal. I don't know how many opt outs there were in that deal, but I think when it comes to the New York Mets and Bo Bichette, he can opt out after the first year or the second year. Like, it's like, I mean,
Right,
it's
right,
about power.
right,
It's about what the agent
right.
said. John Heyman asked him today, literally, the opt out. How do you feel about we saw that opt out. Yeah. How do you feel about the opt out? Like, why did you need that opt out or whatever? And
Right.
the agent's like, listen, he's a young player. He's committed to this city. He's committed to the team, but we got to protect ourselves. So I don't mind it at all. I don't think that, he's Mr. New York now or anything like that. No, he came here for the money, and I don't blame him. He got paid a lot of money. He got
You
paid a
got
lot of
paid a
money.
lot. Yep.
He's a really good
Abs-
player, and he got paid a lot of money,
Absolutely.
and he's young. So why not?
Yeah. 27 years old, man. 27 years old. Still young, man. Still looking fresh. All right. Here's Steve Gelbs talking to David Stearns, which is very
say
important.
it's never finished. We're
Yeah.
never quite done. But do you feel pretty good about what you have in the outfield, or do you still feel like you could add one more?
I feel good about our position player grouping as a whole. I think we have a group that complements each other very well, a group that fits pretty well together. As you said, we're never going to stop looking. And this point in the offseason in particular, things pop up that you don't anticipate. Things can change pretty quickly. But I am happy with the position player group that we have right now.
With the addition of
Good. That's
Luis
good.
Robert, do you
That's good.
So
Again, nothing out of the ordinary. It's kind of what you want him to say. But depending on what he does after saying that is really the real question.
yeah. I
So
think when it comes to this outfield situation, I think that they're fine with it now. I think, look,
yeah,
once you saw
yeah,
that Luis Robert move, it's like you kind of knew that Cody Bellinger was going to go to the Yankees and you
Right.
know that he wasn't going to go
Right.
back to the Mets. He was going to go to the Mets. So
Right.
at the end of
Right.
the day, they got the outfielder that they wanted because they wanted Luis Robert. They've been wanting Luis Robert since the beginning of the offseason, since the last season and the trade deadline. They've been wanting Luis Robert
Mhm.
for some time. So
Mhm.
credit to the Mets for actually landing him. Credit to the Mets.
Right.
But
Right.
we will see what happens. I think this puts a lot of pressure on Luis Robert, but also Carson Bench. That's the thing to perform. It's going to be this is going to be in the majors if he makes the team, which they're already looking, they're putting him in the lineups and all that. So it's like he's
Right.
probably going to make the team.
Yeah, he most likely will make the team. So we'll definitely see. But here's a more important conversation in terms of the pitching. Steve Gelbs was
Oh, yes.
asking
Yes.
David Stearns.
All right, so you said the position player grouping. What about the pitching side? How determined are you to still find a starting pitcher to add to the staff?
My preference is to add a starting pitcher. I've been open and honest about that through the entirety of the offseason. I can't say with certainty we're going to be able to do that, but we remain engaged on a number of different fronts in that market. We still got plenty of time to go in the offseason, and certainly plenty of time before opening day, and so we'll see where it heads.
All right, so you said the position player
Absolutely.
grouping. What about?
Absolutely. Well, here David Stearns talks, and again, guys, I'm going through these because these are very important videos. You kind of get the perspective of a player, and you get the perspective
sure.
of David Stearns. And we want to know up to date what our Pobo is deciding and what he's doing, what's his opinion on things. Because listen, this man gets a lot of stuff thrown his way, rightfully so. But again, if we're gonna throw him some stuff, we at least need to hear the man and his opinion or what ideas he has for this ball club, especially having to pivot from guys like Diaz and Pete. So yeah.
What is it like to bring in Luis Robert in center field for this ball club? Now you've got a stable player out there who's strong defensively as well as has offensive acumen.
Yeah, look, Luis has big time upside, and we've seen it at previous points in his career, and all of those skills and tools that allowed him to perform at such a high level a couple of years ago are still there. So we're excited to bring him into our environment, bring him into our team, give him all the support and help we can, and then watch him go play.
What is it like to bring in Luis Robert?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It's kind of what Randy, you were talking about in terms of his skill set on defense. There's Bo Bichette. That's a tough picture right there. Bo
Yo.
Bichette looking at the stadium he's gonna be playing in about 2 months or so. There's him and his wife. There you go. More pictures. And then obviously today they made another signing. Right-handed reliever,
Yeah.
Luis Garcia. Garcia, 38, has a 3.42 ERA in 58 games pitched last season with the Dodgers, Nationals, and Angels, and has a career ERA of 4.7 in 103 appearances. So again, just adding arms to a situation where you can fluctuate within the bullpen. I think the bullpen will be a little bit stronger than what it was last year, especially with the injuries. AJ Minter, you brought in Devin Williams on a 3-year deal. I think they shored up this bullpen per se. It was a little bit stronger, barring the fact that injuries played a factor. And then again, they addressed the lineup. They addressed what they need defensively. And again, he has always said that defense was his thing. You know what I'm saying? Like this defense was his thing where he was looking at the most and basically putting out that message of, listen, if my guys can't play defense, you're not gonna win. You're not gonna win. I know what they could do offensively. I know what they could do offensively. It's defensively what they need to bring to the table. And last year we didn't really play well defensively. And then not only defensively, but like I said, you go back to the conversation of offense. Having guys that can always make contact. We were 0-72 when trailing after the 8th inning. That should not be happening in any ball club whatsoever.
Any ball club.
We had that issue. That's embarrassing. That literally embarrassing. Where the Mets had moments where they were trailing after the 8th inning and they just couldn't come up clutch. So you got hitters here that can put contact, that can make contact on a consistent basis, that can come up big when you're in that situation. But yeah, man, listen, I personally think that their next big move is to go out there and get a starting pitcher. David Stearns, like I said, has mentioned many times that that his priority is to go get a starting pitcher. Now, Randy, I'm gonna ask you what you think that option is, but I think the only option that you might agree with me, I think the only option right now is Bo Bichette. I mean, not Bo Bichette, excuse me, Freddie Peralta. Freddie
So
Peralta has
I
to be that number one option for me.
I actually want to get into that because when
Okay,
it
go
comes
ahead.
to Freddie Peralta, we heard today from Michael Marino that the
Right.
Mets and the Padres, they were talking, about a trade for Freddie Peralta, but Brandon Sproat and Jet Williams were asked for, and the Mets were unwilling to go that route. So that is very, very interesting when it comes to Freddie Peralta. Now, Freddie Peralta is a guy that obviously is a rental. He's getting paid $8 million this year, but there's a lot to like with Freddie Peralta, right? But he's a
Right.
rental. So are you going to trade Brandon Sproat and a Jet Williams for a rental? When it comes to these prospects, these top prospects that David Stearns really, really enjoys. He really likes. He wants to build this farm system and have the best farm system just wants to have a really good farm system. And he is
Right.
doing that each year, adding to that farm system. And you see guys like Jacob Reimer, being in the top 100 when it comes to these prospects at some point. You see guys that, like, he's not in the top 100 prospects, but I think it was top 100 in like exit velocity or something like that. So I
Right.
like these prospects. I like what they're doing. Now, when it comes to Freddie Peralta, I would love a Freddie Peralta here. You need to add
Right.
a starting pitcher. You need to add a frontline starting pitcher. Look, I like Brandon Sproat. I like Jet Williams, right? But sometimes you got to make that sacrifice. Sometimes you got to make that sacrifice. Now, that is a lot to give up for a rental. But what if he's not a rental? What if he becomes a part of an extension? There's been talks
Right.
about maybe that Freddie Peralta wants to be extended. So who
Right.
knows?
Right.
I think when it comes to the New York Mets, you need to add a starting pitcher. We've heard from David Stearns today that they're interested in adding a starting pitcher. That's their focus.
Right.
Yes, they are happy with their position player grouping, which I'm not surprised by. I don't think that they're really going to make that many other moves in the position player grouping, but I can see moves from pitching. I can see them getting a Freddie Peralta. Now, it's weird because I saw Michael Marino say that, and then I saw SNY post that they're still engaged. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know which one when it comes to Freddie Peralta, but I think he is a very, very impressive arm. He had a 2.70 ERA. He had a really good year. Yes, he didn't pitch amazing in the playoffs, but is he that ace that the Mets need? Is he that number one that the Mets need? The Mets need a top frontline pitcher. They hadn't had a frontline starting pitcher here since David Stearns has been here, to be honest with you.
Right.
So
Right.
I like him a lot. I like Freddie Peralta. And I could see the Mets trading for him. But David Stearns, he's going to have to sacrifice these prospects at some point. Is it going to be for a Freddie Peralta? Is it going to be for a Tarek Skubal maybe? Who knows? Because there's been talks about maybe that Tarek Skubal and then that trade market might really heat up for him in the last month. So I don't know what's going to happen with the New York Mets when it comes to starting pitching, but I think that you got to get one. But what I will say is, and what I said yesterday in that Twitter space, in Queens baseball space, I said that you saw that they've been engaged, Top. They've been engaged, about, there's been reports about Luis Robert, so many reports about Luis Robert, so many. And we've seen multiple reports about Framber Valdez. We've seen that, I think it was SNY the other day. They literally said the Mets are okay with giving up the draft picks for a Framber Valdez. That's not escalating their decision. So I think that's very interesting.
So do you find yourself, if you're David Stearns, Randy, do you find yourself in a situation where it's like, do I give away my chips knowing that I still want to build while trying to win a championship and go get a Freddie Peralta and take the risk of still losing him even if you do try to extend him? Or do I just sign Framber Valdez to close to a 5-year, 6 deal where I'm secured on a front on a number one starting pitching and I can still go out there and get another lefty like a Tyreek Skubal next year and still keep some of my top arms that are already here, like a Nolan McLean, who could be a number 3 option. You put Brandon Sproat in there. You still have Jonah Tong in there. That whole rotation, that's the top. That's you got to look at it from this perspective, and this is why I say it. David Peterson, right now, to me, yes, he's gonna have another way to go in terms of being in this rotation. I think he's owed another chance to see if he can duplicate what he did in 2024. However, let's just say they get Framber Valdez on a 6-year deal, right? Let's say the Mets go past what they want and they give him a 5 or 6 year deal. That's one lefty that's already added to your rotation for that many years, right? You go out there, you go get a Skubal. You pay him the money that he's owed. That's 2 lefties already. Then you're talking about a righty in McLean, a righty in Brandon Sproat, and a righty in Jonah Tong. Now, of course, people are gonna say, well, what about Christian Scott? What about Christian Scott? Right now, this is Nolan McLean. This is Jonah Tong. This is Brandon Sproat. Christian Scott's down here. We don't know what that injury has done to Christian Scott. For anybody to put him on a level where we should automatically just throw him to the fire and then kill him when he doesn't have it. So my question to you, Randy, is do you look at it from a standpoint of if they do take the Framber Valdez route, do you look at it from a standpoint of they might have 2 lefties, which could be your aces, and then fill the rest of the rotation with those 3 young kids because those are your 3 primary aces and 3 primary top pitching arms that coming out of your farm, and they don't go for a trade and trade those guys.
So I think what's going to happen with Framber Valdez is actually
Mhm.
the Mets won't give him a 6-year deal. The Mets won't give him a 5-year deal. They will try
Okay.
to give him that high AAV short-term deal. That is what they will
Okay.
probably try.
Yeah,
And this is
that makes sense.
I'm basing this off on what we have seen from the Mets. We've seen
Mhm.
that the Mets are not willing to go the 5, the 6, the 7 years deals. So
Mhm.
that's what I'm really basing this on. I would love a Framber Valdez here. I think he would really make this rotation better. But I do think that the Mets add 1 pitcher. I don't think that they add 2 pitchers. So I think when it comes to these young guys, if you add a Framber on a short-term deal, 3-year
Mhm.
deal, and you put a high AAV,
Mhm.
maybe that's attractive to Framber. Maybe it's not. It's about what Framber Valdez wants. Maybe the
Right.
market is a little weird for him now because what he did in Houston,
Right.
and
Right.
hitting the catcher. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. Maybe he made amends and people feel that he's okay. Now we've with Ranger Suarez, people talked about, oh, he might get a short-term deal because he's not getting the long-term deal. Well, he got a long-term deal with Boston.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
A,
not
a
like
big long
sometimes,
term deal.
yeah, like we think sometimes that, oh, they're not going to get this type of deal, but you saw it. You
Right.
saw Ranger Suarez what he got. So
Right.
with
Right.
no opt outs, by the way. So credit to Boston for doing that and taking that gamble. And I think Rangers are a good pitcher, but Framber Valdez, I think he's a winner. I think he's a guy that you want on this team, and the Mets have been engaged for a reason with him. This whole offseason, we've heard about Framber Valdez and the Mets. So, Mark Feiss said it was a report like literally months ago, talked about that the favorites to land him were the Orioles and the Mets. Is it still that case?
Right.
I don't know. But I think
Right.
when it comes to Framber, he still has really good stuff. Yes, the second half in 2025 was not ideal. It wasn't what you want because he really, really struggled in the second half. Really struggled. But what's gonna happen with Framber Valdez? I think they're gonna add one starter. And is it gonna be a Framber Valdez? Is it gonna be a Chris Bassett? I don't know. I have no clue, but they need to add a starting pitcher. And hopefully
Right.
it's a frontline starting pitcher. Now, that is what I really want them to add. But it's like you said, they got the young pitchers. They got Jonah
Right.
Tom. They got McLean. They got Christian Scott. They got Brandon Sproat. You know, maybe they want to take the gamble on those young kids. McLean is
right.
good. McLean got the spot already. McLean got the spot.
Yeah. He's set to go, of course.
He's
Right.
set to go. So I think they're gonna add one starter.
Okay.
But I
Well,
want to ask you this though. I want to ask you,
Mhm.
what do you
Mhm.
think about the unwillingness to add, a Brandon Sproat, a Jet Williams to that trade? Why? What do you think that is the unwillingness? Is it just a rental? What is the case, and who would you give up for him? Who to change the deal? Like, because we're talking about Freddie Peralta here, a frontline starter. So
Right.
what would you give up?
I mean, I'd give up a Jet. I'd give up a Brandon Sproat. So I would
Oh,
do
so
it.
you would do the deal,
Of course, I would do the deal. Here's
even
where
if he's a rental.
yes, but I'm doing the deal with the mindset of us going to extend him.
Okay.
If Freddie Peralta is coming to a situation where he's like, I don't want to extend right now. I want to wait until I'm a free agent because he is a free agent after this season. I'm pulling the plug. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. These guys that I have in my farm system right now are very valuable where I can use them. However, I'm in a situation right now where my rotation doesn't have anybody that I could use to lock down games at certain times. I need a front load starter, and I don't have that right now. So I have to move some of my pieces. I don't think Jet's gonna have a spot here because I just don't. I think his it's like 1 year in the minors, he's up. The next year, he's down. Then he comes up. It's like, when is he ever gonna find consistency? You're talking about Brandon Sproat, where in my opinion, I think obviously Nolan McLean is up here, and I think Jonah Tong has a better upside than Brandon Sproat. So those two, I would easily do it, just because you don't know what you're gonna get from Jet Williams, and you don't know when he's gonna give you a consistent season to where it's like, all right, it's time to call him up, unless somebody, knock on wood, gets hurt. Then you really have no choice but to bring him up here. But again, I don't think the Mets are in position, unless they want to give Framber Valdez a deal. I don't think they're in a position to just walk away and say, "Yo, I don't think we should take this deal because of who they're asking for." At the end of the day, they're not asking for Jonah Tong. They briefly had conversations about it, but that doesn't necessarily mean they want him, nor do they want anybody else in my minors. Brandon Sproat right now is good, so I'm gonna have to give up to get. But at the same time, I don't know what the future tells me for Jet Williams, so I'm willing to take that risk, knowing that we're gonna go into extension conversations. Unless you're telling me you don't want to extend, you want to hit free agency after this year, I'm not gonna do it. You might as well just rack your last year up with Milwaukee before you decide to get in that. And hey, listen, if we don't fall for Tarek Skubal and Tarek Skubal ends up signing back with the Tigers, or he goes somewhere else to the Dodgers, I can have conversations with Freddie Peralta and be like, all right, we're new contract. You're a free agent this time. I'm not giving anything up. What do you want? And let's discuss.
Look, I love it. I think, like, at some point, right, you're gonna have to trade these kids. At some
Yeah.
point, you're gonna have to trade a Brandon Sproat. You might have to trade a Jet Williams. I understand, like, I get, like, you wanting to keep them, but if you want to win now, which the Mets
You got to
do,
trade him.
you gotta trade them.
Mhm.
I mean, if we're talking about really getting, like, that is a move. That is a real starting pitcher, frontline starter move. You trade Brandon Sproat, you trade Jet Williams for Freddie Peralta.
I do it. Like I said, I told you what the potentials are for a Brandon Sproat and a Jet Williams here. You know,
But
Jet,
what I
you don't
what
know what you don't know what you're gonna get from Jet. You don't know when that time is gonna come. With Brandon Sproat, maybe. But again, you're talking about Nolan McLean, Jonah Tong, and then Brandon Sproat. At least I get to
and
keep my
Christian
two
Scott, like,
number. He's down there, but at least I get to keep my number two guys that I hold most, and then the third one is Sproat. I'll take the risk giving away a third the number our number three in Brandon Sproat.
like the Jet, like, is it the look from what I saw from the New York Mets in
Mhm.
2025, the way they treated Brandon Sproat, the way they kind of like played with him, like, oh, like they called guys over him, they called Jonah Tong over him. Like,
Mhm.
this is a guy
Mhm.
that I feel that the Mets, like, I think that they're willing to trade Brandon Sproat. I think the
I think so too.
unwillingness is to
It's
trade
Jet Williams.
Jet Williams.
Mhm.
That's the guy that they're probably don't want to trade. And I think Jet Williams is a nice prospect. I think he's a really good prospect. I think there's a reason why he's a top prospect.
Right.
He's and credit to him working with Alex Bregman during the all season. I mean, absolutely a star in Alex Bregman.
That's
So
huge.
a
That's
winner, a
absolutely huge. Yep.
champion.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, Jet Williams is trying to get better, and I love that. I It's just so interesting because it's like their unwillingness to trade Jet Williams. Like,
Right.
damn,
Right.
like you can add Freddie Peralta to your team. Freddie Peralta, we're talking about. We're talking about our frontline starter. We're talking about a top-notch frontline starter. We're not talking about a question mark here. And that's the thing. Like, what are the Mets gonna do? Are they gonna add a Freddie Peralta? Are they gonna go for Framber Valdez? What are they gonna do? That's the beautiful question to this offseason. And it's been the question of the offseason for the whole offseason. It's about the starting pitching. What did they lack in
Oh,
2025? What killed them in 2025? It was starting pitching.
yep.
You need starting pitching here. How are you going to get starting pitching here? Are you going to go trade for Freddie Peralta? Are you going to go the Framber Valdez route? I don't see the 6-year deal for Framber Valdez. I just don't see it. I really don't. I see
I
that
don't
the
either.
Mets giving him a high AAV deal, short-term deal. I think that the Mets are fine with that. I just don't see them giving him that long-term deal. I
Yep.
don't.
I don't see it. I don't see it either. I don't see it
And
either. But you know what?
Christian Scott is another player, a pitcher that to me, he adds a lot of intrigue as well to the
Right.
season.
Right. I mean, again, but that's also saying where he's going to be
Yeah.
in terms of in terms of him getting acclimated back into a system after being out with an injury for a season. How he's gonna look, how he's gonna feel, like that right there. That plays a part. But again, that is the major question. Is David Stearns going to lock in a major frontline starter? And are they going to change this pitching rotation up? Because I think, in my opinion, they've addressed the offense, they've addressed the bullpen to a certain extent, and now you got to figure out what you're going to do with this pitching rotation. But I think we're going to wrap it up here. Shout out to the 169 that has came and chat with us. Shout out to the 36 that is watching us through the new Mets on Top account. Um, like I said, just a brief thing. The Mets on Top thing is not part of Top Bunk Sports. We're taking the Mets on Top brand and we're making it its own thing. So that's a new X account, new Instagram account, new YouTube account. Everything is its own thing, and we think me and Randy could kind of build this brand and
Yeah.
do what we want to do. Obviously, Randy's gonna have his own thing with Mets, Talks Randy, and I'll have my own thing with Top Bunk Sports. But in terms of just Mets conversation with me and Randy and just doing Met content together, me and Randy created this. So everybody, make sure you guys go follow us on X, Make sure you guys
Mets on
follow
top.
us.
Also, the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the YouTube channel on Mets on
Yes,
top.
please.
I don't know if David could put it in the description or the YouTube channel, but
The description. Yeah,
the
I got you.
description. So I think if you go follow that page, you go subscribe. We will be uploading content there. We'll be uploading our podcast there. So
Mhm.
definitely a lot of exciting things to come from Mets on top.
Absolutely, absolutely. But we appreciate y'all, man. Everybody have a beautiful, blessed Wednesday or Wednesday night. Make sure you guys bundle up, stay safe because it is cold.
Oh, it's
It
cold.
is whew,
It's about to be
the
cold
weather
this week and next week.
yeah, man, it is
60
going to
degrees
snow
next week.
this weekend. It is going to snow this weekend. So everybody bundle up, man. Make sure y'all stay safe. More Mets news obviously coming out. Hopefully we're here talking about pitching. Now that they've kind of addressed what they need to address, especially on the offense side. I think getting Bushett and then obviously getting Luis Robert Jr. were major pickups to kind of bolster this lineup. So yeah, we'll see what it is. But Randy, any final thoughts before we hop off?
Nah, man. At the end of the day, we love our Mets, man. We want this team to get better. This offseason has shown that maybe we gotta have more trust in this team, have more trust in the owner. I get when some things don't happen, they went for the top free agent in the game, Kyle Tucker,
Absolutely.
and offered
Yep.
him a great deal. They just couldn't land him because he wants to be this guy that's chasing a ring. Okay, he's chasing a ring with the Dodgers, and it is what it is. That's what he wants to do. At his little press conference today, talk about it. Come on, man. This is a joke that But credit to the Dodgers. They played. They played the system the right way. They haven't
Very
done
well.
anything. They haven't done anything wrong. They are doing what is legally, in the CBA. So we can't really fault them for that. But
Right.
I mean, that's an MLB The Show team right there.
Literally.
That's a game. That's a video game lineup right there. You know what I'm saying? So, but baseball is baseball, and the Dodgers were beatable last year. Maybe they could be beatable this year. There's always hope.
Absolutely. Yep,
But
absolutely.
let's go
But
Mets.
appreciate y'all.
See what happens.
Yeah, let's go Mets, man. Appreciate you guys. Again, the first live from Mets on top. We should be able to go live our next time on the actual Mets on top YouTube account. So make sure you guys, like I said, like Randy said, subscribe to that and stay updated with us. We are part of Queens Baseball, so shout out everybody at Queens Baseball. Rube, Rick, Odd Villain, Chris. I mean, everybody, just everybody at Queens Baseball. Without Queens Baseball, this is not possible. So shout out to Queens Baseball. And yeah, man, let's go Mets and let's keep it going. Appreciate y'all. And we'll check you out on the next live.